Like many large firms, Starbucks started small. Gordon Bowker, Gerald Baldwin, and Zev Ziegel opened the first Starbucks in 1971. Starbucks' current CEO, Howard Schultz, realized that many consumers wanted a coffee house where they could sit, read, and drink higher quality coffee than they could get in diners or donut shops. But it was not difficult for other coffee houses to copy the Starbucks approach. By 2009, fierce competition and a weak economy led Starbucks to close hundreds of stores and cut prices. Starbucks became profitable once more in 2010, partly due to expansion in overseas markets. Starbucks is in the coffeehouse market, which has low barriers to entry, so the firm has many competitors. But the coffee at Starbucks is not identical to the coffee at competing coffeehouses. The coffeehouse market is therefore monopolistically competitive rather than perfectly competitive. Monopolistic competition is a market structure in which barriers to entry are low, and many firms compete by selling similar but not identical products. This becomes the keystone difference between monopolistic competition and perfect competition markets. Differentiation of the product eclipses the service provided by the vendor of the product. Remember the farmers market products where vendors sell their virtually identical carrots? How is it that Sasha Gillette can sell more than her competitors sell? She can differentiate her service to clients more than her generic product could. In monopolistically competitive markets, differentiation of the product and the differentiation of the service unites to make the perfectly elastic demand curve into a downward sloping demand curve.
The whole purpose of places like Starbucks is for people with no decision-making ability whatsoever to make 6 decisions just to buy 1 cup of coffee. Short, tall, light, dark, calf, decaf, low-fat, non-fat, etc. So people who don't know what the hell they're doing or who on earth they are can, for only $2.95, get not just a cup of coffee, but an absolutely defining sense of self.
Tall skim caramel macchiato.
Tall. Decaf. Cappuccino.
Tall decaf cappuccino.
When a firm creates or recognizes a market for a good, and that good is something so fundamental as grapes made into wine or beans brewed into coffee, the product differentiation may be embodied through social preferences for the provider, preferences both for and against the name on the wall. If a Starbucks increases the price of cafe lattes, it will lose some, but not all, of its customers. In this case, raising the price from $3 to $3.25 reduces the quantity of cafe lattes sold from 3,000 to 2,400. Therefore, unlike a perfect competitor, a Starbucks coffeehouse faces a downward sloping demand curve. We explore the effects of price and quantity for any firm on this now familiar schedule to reveal total revenue, average revenue, and marginal revenue. Different from the perfect competition example, marginal revenue initially is positive as price decreases from $6 to $3, but marginal revenues drop becomes negative below $3 per cup. If a local Starbucks reduces the price of cafe latte from $3.50 to $3, the number of cafe lattes it sells per week will increase from 5 to 6. Its marginal revenue from selling the 6th cafe latte will be 50 cents, which is equal to the $3 additional revenue from selling one more cafe latte, the area of the green box, minus the $2.50 loss in revenue from selling the first 5 cafe lattes for 50 cents less each, the area of the red box. The output effect expresses how when more output is sold, the quantity is higher. The price effect measures how price reductions sell more products. But remember, reduction in price applies to all cups sold. Like a competitive firm, the monopolist produces the quantity at which marginal revenue equals marginal cost. While this graph makes this example seem obvious, I want you to understand that when price is reduced from $3.50 to $3, that change in price was for all coffee sold by the coffeehouse. The price effect will increase quantity with a downward sloping demand curve. As an economist, give attention to the loss experienced when price is decreased versus the quantity increased for the new sales level. Compare the green box to the right to the pink box on the left. In this example, reducing price on the first 5 cups by 50 cents reduced revenue by $2.50, while the increase in revenue resulted in an increase of $3. Therefore, the price effect shows an attractive result.
That's going to lead us into probably the most important concept to understanding what the graphs look like in this unit. It's the idea that the demand doesn't equal the marginal revenue. Now, in the last unit, remember, there was a horizontal demand curve which equaled the marginal revenue. It was Mr. DARP, but that's not going to happen in this situation, and a lot of students get confused why, but pay attention, it'll make sense. Let's use the ultimate review packet as an example. Right? I am a price maker. There's no perfect competition when it comes to producing economics packets. Right? There's not millions of firms all producing the same exact stuff. Mine is unique. It's slightly different than any other review packet that's out there. And my video is unique as well. The point is, I'm a price maker. So here's the price, the quantity demanded, the total revenue, and the marginal revenue for my company for each given day. If I decide to sell the packets for 14 bucks, let's assume no one's going to buy it. The price is just way too high. No one buys it for 14, so my quantity is 0 and I get no total revenue. If I lower my price, then more people will buy. So if I lower the price down to 12, let's say one person buys. So I sell it for $12. 1 times 12 is my total revenue. So notice my total revenue goes from 0 to 12, so my additional or marginal revenue is 12. Now you might be thinking, yeah, of course, you sold another unit for $12 and so you made $12 additional revenue. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, watch this. I want to sell another unit. What do I got to do? Well, think about it. I can't just sell another unit because no one else is going to buy it at $12. I got to lower the price. So to sell another unit, I got to lower the price, let's say down to $10. At $10, 2 people buy it per day. 2 times 10 is 20. That's my total revenue. Notice my additional revenue, it went from 12 to 20, right? My total revenue went from 12 to 20. So my additional revenue is 8. Now, think about it. That's kind of weird. I sold another unit for 10 bucks, but my additional revenue is less than what I sold it for. It's only 8. I lost $2 somewhere. Well, where did I lose the $2? Well, I lost the $2 on the revenue I could have earned by selling it for $12, right? When I lower it down to 10, that's great. I get another customer, but I lose the revenue on the person I could have sold it to for a higher price. And let's do it again. Let's say I lower the price down to 8. At 8, 3 people buy, so the total revenue is 24, so my additional revenue is 4. Notice, I sold another unit for 8, but I only made an additional $4. My marginal revenue does not equal the price. It doesn't equal the demand. Now, if I keep lowering my price, notice what happens. If I lower my price down to $6 per packet, then 4 people will buy. 6 times 4 is 24. Look. My total revenue doesn't change at all. In fact, I get no additional revenue. My marginal revenue is 0. If I'm selling the next unit, my marginal revenue is actually negative. I'm actually making less additional money by lowering the price. Now again, this seems counterintuitive. It seems like if I just sell more units, I can just make more money. But it doesn't work that way because I'm losing money on previous units I could have sold for a higher price. It actually creates a graph. It's right here. The demand curve is downward sloping, just like a normal market curve showing the law of demand. When the price is high, fewer people want to buy. Price is low, more people want to buy. Now, the marginal revenue doesn't equal that demand curve. In fact, the marginal revenue, if we plotted those numbers I just showed you, it would look like this. Right? It's downward sloping and it's less than the demand. And that's why teachers talk about the Monopoly gang sign. Boom, looks like this. You got demand, you got marginal revenue. So when you draw the graph and you're figuring it out on a test, you're like, boom, bam, demand, marginal revenue, what up? It's important to understand what it looks like, but it's also important to understand why it looks that way. So the demand's downward sloping because of the law of demand, and the marginal revenue is less than the demand curve for all price makers because to sell another unit, they gotta lower the price of all units, including the ones they could have sold for a higher price. I've repeated that 3 times, so you know it must be important.
And a firm that has the ability to affect the price of the product it sells will have a marginal revenue curve that is below its demand curve. We plot the data from Table 13.1 to create the demand and marginal revenue curves. After the 6th cafe latte, marginal revenue becomes negative because the additional revenue received from selling one more cafe latte is smaller than the revenue lost from receiving a lower price on the cafe lattes that could have been sold at the original price. This all condenses down to the product of the change in price and quantity. The slope of the marginal revenue curve will always be steeper than the demand curve, and at some point it will intersect the horizontal axis, moving into the negative marginal revenue domain. Know what the Monopoly game sign means for your company. When we studied perfectly competitive markets, we pivoted on the point of production where marginal cost equals marginal revenue to discover where profit maximization happens. This optimal point of production is the same for monopolistically competitive markets and every other market we explore. I like evaluating graphs, but all graphs need to be created from tables like this one. By now, we know the headings, the acronyms, and how changes in price are the controlling power of companies to make revenue. As the price of cafe latte drops 50 cents a cup, total revenue initially climbs. Marginal revenue drops, and profits climb out of its negative zone to embrace profitable operations. When the price reaches $3.50 a cup, look straight at the marginal revenue and marginal cost. They are equal. This is the point we were looking for. Scanning this row, you can see profit is $5. Some folks think about this situation and believe that more is better, so production is increased as marginal cost reaches $2, $3, and $4, and marginal revenue plunges below zero and money is lost for each next cup produced. To maximize profit, a Starbucks coffee house wants to sell cafe lattes up to the point where the marginal revenue from selling the last cafe latte is just equal to the marginal cost. As the table shows, selling the 5th cafe latte, point A in panel A, adds $1.50 to the firm's costs and $1.50 to its revenues. The firm then uses the demand curve to find the price that will lead consumers to buy this quantity of cafe lattes, point B. In panel B, the green box represents the firm's profits. The box has a height equal to the $1, which is the $3.50 price minus the average total cost of $2.50, and it has a base equal to the quantity of 5 cafe lattes. So for this Starbucks, profit equals $1 times 5, or $5. This process is a very important series of steps, taken sequentially to ensure you have identified each step correctly. First, find marginal revenue equal to marginal cost, point A. This identifies the quantity to produce. Quantity, not price. Next, draw a line vertically to intersect the demand curve, point B. Etch the horizontal line to the vertical axis and find the price to charge. Where the vertical line intersects the average total cost curve, you have identified your average cost of production at this level of output. The green profit box for this example shows the height of $1 and a width of the quantity produced, 5 cups. Follow these steps in this order and you will always find the sweet zone of profitability for your monopolistically competitive firm, at least for the short term.
There it is, Mongo! To the castle! No, you great stupid pastry! Come on!
Okay, did everyone notice how patrons fled Farbucks to the coffee house right across the street? Another Farbucks coffee? Why would Farbucks want to create their own competition? We need to look closer at this odd situation. Panel A shows that in the short run, the local Starbucks faces the demand and marginal revenue curves labeled short run. With this demand curve, Starbucks can charge a price above average total cost, point A, and make a profit, shown by the green rectangle. But this profit attracts new firms to enter the market, which shifts the demand and marginal revenue curves to the curves labeled long run in panel B. Because price is now equal to average total cost, point B, Starbucks breaks even and no longer earns an economic profit. We call this the short run because the monopolistically competitive firm has no direct competition and owns the market for their product. Even a firm that is not the lowest cost provider of products can generate a profit, and those that are production competitive can make a tidy profit, at least in the short run. If the firm is not productively efficient and their average total costs exceed the demand curve, a loss will be experienced no matter what the level of production. Just because the monopolistically competitive firm is a price setter, it does not mean the consumers are forced to be price takers at any price. People can still decide to stay out of the market. As the monopolistically competitive firm makes a profit, others will become aware of the profit potential and enter the market to slice it into more competitive slices. Slices new entrants to the marketplace want to consume. Now cost competitiveness becomes paramount in the marketplace, as price and cost interact to identify profitable winners and loss-bound losers. Ultimately, average total cost will become tangent to the demand curve, and no profits will be found across the sector. Zero long-run profits are the impetus of innovation in monopolistically competitive markets. You have a coffee bean, a grape variety, or a smartphone brand you want consumers to believe is unique and something they want to have. Differentiation is the name of the game. You want followers, trendsetters, and loyal consumers proud to wear your hats in public. Owners do not have to accept breaking even. The key to earning economic profits is to sell a differentiated product or to find a way to produce an existing product at a lower cost. Firms continually struggle to find new ways to stay one step ahead of other firms that attempt to copy their success. Monopolistically competitive firms sell mostly identical products, and about anyone can enter the marketplace. So, how does Starbucks own such a sizable portion of the market for coffee? It is because Starbucks sells an experience. No two shops in a market area are identical. Music they play is trended to local tastes and preferences. They were the first coffee shop to give Wi-Fi for free to customers, power outlets at each table for laptops and smartphones. They innovated with specialized drinks ordered by customers with loyalty cards that indicated favorite drink selections when they order. All these enhancements for differentiation come with no barriers to entry. So, what options remain for Starbucks differentiation? In a monopolistically competitive market, neither productive efficiency nor allocative efficiency are achieved. Economists have debated whether this results in a significant loss of well-being to society in these markets compared with perfectly competitive markets. There are two important differences between long-run equilibrium in monopolistic competition and perfect competition. Monopolistically competitive firms charge a price greater than marginal cost, and they do not produce at minimum average total cost. Because a monopolistically competitive firm maximizes profit at an output level that is not at the minimum point of its average total cost curve, it has excess capacity. If the firm increased its output, it could produce at a lower average cost. The demand curve for a monopolistically competitive firm slopes downward because the good or service the firm is selling is differentiated from the goods or services sold by competing firms. Firms differentiate their products to appeal to consumers. When firms are successful in differentiating their products, this indicates that some consumers find these products preferable to the alternatives. Consumers, therefore, are better off than they would have been had these companies not differentiated their products. Consumers face a trade-off when buying the product of a monopolistically competitive firm. Consumers pay a price greater than the marginal cost, and the product is not produced at a minimum average cost. But consumers benefit from being able to purchase a product that is more closely suited to their tastes. This is allocative efficiency.
The competition is mounting here by the day.
Yes.
Interesting announcement that you're putting Seattle's Best, another brand of yours, in Burger Kings across the country, hitting, I would assume, very different customers than come into this store?
Yes. Well, here's a statistic that people are surprised by. Despite the long-term success that we've enjoyed, we have less than 10% share of coffee consumption in North America and less than 1% share internationally. Now, having said that, there's a lot of places that people are drinking lots of coffee that are not compatible with the brand equity of Starbucks. Fast food environments are part of that. But we have this wonderful brand that has been under the shadow of Starbucks for 20 years called Seattle's Best Coffee. It's more approachable, it's more accessible, it's a lighter roast, and we're now going to unleash Seattle's Best Coffee to have ubiquitous distribution throughout the country. And QSR is one of those places. Burger King, I think, is a fantastic place for Seattle's Best Coffee to live, and it also gives Burger King an opportunity to compete with their competitors by offering great coffee.
Well,
and we like that.
Let's just say the name, McDonald's.
Yeah, well,
McDonald's Premium Coffee, they have been a formidable challenger, haven't they?
Well, Yeah, the interesting thing about McDonald's, who is a great company and have done extraordinary things, is that when they got behind coffee, our business started to grow again. So they raised awareness. They spent a lot of money on advertising.
You're saying they helped you?
They did help us, yes.
Really?
Yeah, in a perverse way, they did. And so what I'm saying is that the level of awareness that was created by McDonald's tens of millions of dollars of advertising created more trial in the marketplace and differentiation.
Well, and doesn't it help that you have legislation pushing for people to move away from soda? So well, you have that as well.
Yeah,
You've got
I haven't thought about that, but thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, but the point is, if you look around this store and the environments that we create, it's not only the quality of the coffee, which we believe has no peer. It's the experience, it's the relationship our people have with the customer. And I think we've created an environment that is so significantly different than anyone who is in the fast food business who's trying to sell great coffee.
But I want to push you on McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts
Okay.
because they're all
Push
in
me.
a 2-block radius of my office, and people I work with go to all of them. What do you look at Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's and admire and say we need to bring that here? And what do you look at and say not for us?
Well, let's go back to what we said before. There's no finish line here. So no one at Starbucks, despite the fact that we had record earnings last quarter, is celebrating. There's no victory lap. We have a lot of work to do. And we've got competitors all over the world who want to take the food off Starbucks' table. We get that. Now, the consumer has lots of choices. We believe very strongly the quality of our coffee, the value proposition, the environment, the trust and reputation of the company, almost in every scenario will convince our customers that Starbucks is the place to continue to go. Now, our competitors are aggressive. They're using price and promotion, but they are not a coffee company. McDonald's is a company that sells fast food and hamburgers.
But you're selling more food now, and I hear we're going to see more.
Yeah, but food is complementary and an adjacency to Starbucks.
So it's always going to be about the coffee.
Yeah, and let's define that. Starbucks is sourcing only 3% of the finest coffee in the world. The other 97% is not good enough for us. The irony of the fact that we've grown all these years is the quality of access, the quality of coffee, blending, and everything we do around coffee has gotten significantly better. And so we're going to be bringing coffees to the marketplace that we haven't had before and continue to reaffirm and invest in the authority that we have around coffee and the coffee experience. And I think what's happened over the last 2 years is that not only have we taken over $500 million of cost out of the business, but there's a new muscle, a new discipline, and most of that savings is permanent, and we'll have much more leeway in the middle of our P&L to invest in our people, our coffee, the customer experience on a go-forward basis.
Firms can differentiate their products through marketing, which refers to all the activities necessary for a firm to sell a product to a consumer. Marketing includes activities such as determining which product to produce, designing the product, advertising and distributing the product, and monitoring how consumer tastes affect the market for the product. Firms use 2 marketing tools to differentiate their products: brand management and advertising. Brand management refers to the actions of a firm intended to maintain the differentiation of a product over time. Firms use brand management to postpone the time when they will no longer be able to earn economic profits. In the interview we just watched, you learned that Starbucks created their image while also creating their own competition in the same marketplaces. Seattle's best coffee. Their own competition also created a brand image different from Starbucks. Starbucks can control price for a substantial part of the market where their footprint is marked by 2 booths. A successful advertising campaign will allow a firm to sell more of its product at every price, and it will be able to increase the price it charges without losing many customers. But advertising also increases costs. If the increase in revenue that results from the advertising is greater than the increase in costs, the firm's profits will rise. Once a firm has established a brand name, it has an incentive to defend it. A firm can apply for a trademark, which grants legal protection against other firms using a product's name. A company will spend substantial amounts of money to ensure that its brand names are entitled to legal protection. If a firm's trademarked name becomes widely used for a type of product, the firm may no longer be entitled to legal protection from unauthorized use of that trademarked name. Consider this. Starbucks' image was placed into the You've Got Mail clip where people with no decision-making ability whatsoever come to feel important, and into Shrek's Farbucks scare running to the coffee house next door. Another Farbucks. I guarantee these insertions into widely distributed films without obvious advertising messages was a welcome advertising campaign for Starbucks. It worked. The factors under a firm's control, the ability to differentiate its product and the ability to produce it at lower cost, combine with the factors beyond its control to determine the firm's profitability. A firm's owners and managers can control some of the factors that allow it to make economic profits. Examples include the firm's ability to differentiate its product and produce a product at a lower average cost than competing firms. Some factors that affect a firm's profitability are not directly under the firm's control. For example, increases in input prices. Sheer chance also plays a role in the success of your business. The firm appearing as the first in the marketplace has one obvious advantage, and that is the short-run profits made as price setters and limited competition. Kleenex is a trademarked product that has been used to refer to a generic product, facial tissue. Bic is a first-in-the-market ink pen. Frappuccino is a registered trademark of Starbucks. Each brand name is used interchangeably by consumers for the family of the products they founded. Ultimately, consumers seek the product at the price seen as competitive. Those price-competitive providers hold longevity in the differentiated marketplace in the long run.